for any reason, ever share your private keys, passphrases, passwords, or click suspicious links. Everyone all the time is trying to steal your stuff. So go slow and be careful. There's no point making all this money just to give it to a thief. AI Nick would make more money, I think. if it was the AI me, just AI Nick would be making more money, taking more vacations. And you wouldn't know the difference. And probably better lighting. This is top-down lighting. I'm gonna have to work on that. It's not the greatest. The sound is good though. That's all that matters. All right, it's July 3rd. We have some AI news. We're going to talk today. I mean, it's kind of a holiday, so we're going to have a little holiday discussion. We will look at markets. Things are up quite a bit. But again, I wouldn't celebrate these up days. They're just kind of interspersed. There just hasn't been too much bad news over the last few days. Some of the AI assets are performing pretty well. And if you've been in AI stuff for the last, 6-8 months. Well, if you've been hanging out with us, you're in AI for the last 2 years. You good. My AI investments, if I take everything else out and just my AI investments, I'm up. Well, a lot. I'll just say this. I had a good day. This has been a good day. I'm up just shy of $3 million. So when people are like, oh, he doesn't have any skin in the game. Bullshit. I got skin in the game. I just don't stress about it because I don't really, I guess what I have is not what's in there right now. It's what I see in like 18 to 36 months. That's just the way that I look at the world. So it's cool. Like you can do all sorts of mental, like, oh man, if I did this and did that and all that kind of crap, but yeah, you buy quality stuff. You find a way to use some kind of system of fundamental analysis that you've probably created, or like you can use the 5 T's. You hope that what you're buying has use, utility, the chance for wide scale adoption. You know that you're going to get it wrong, even if you're intellectually right, but you know also that everybody else is not doing. So I was driving home with a buddy after we were just talking about idiots, because there's so many of them. And then we just we reminded ourselves that if there weren't all these idiots in the world, we wouldn't be able to do any of this intellectual arbitrage and make money, right? Because every time we leave the market with more currency units, there's some dumbass that punts into it. People that buy the tops and sell the bottoms, like the British government versus George Soros, those kind of idiots. By the way, that's all blown out of proportion. George Soros didn't break the British. He didn't break the pound. He didn't break the bank. That entire trade they put on was equal to less than 1% of the currency trading on any given day in just British pounds. So anyway, it's a cool story, but it's a little bit apocryphal. But anyway, if there weren't so many dumbasses out there, we wouldn't have anybody to arbitrage. So every time you see some old fool, and I mean old because of the way they think, not because of their age. You can have a 22-year-old old fool. But every time you see some dumbass old fool or some garbage banker, some douchebag real estate promoter, some guru, hedge fund creep any of these D-bags, and also, don't confuse knowledge with intelligence. Those are not the same. We're going to go over that today. I've prepared quite the essay. But if we didn't have all those douchebags out there saying stupid stuff, some of it they believe, there wouldn't be a lot of money on the table because everybody would see it. And if everybody saw it, then there would be nothing to arbitrage. We're arbitraging relative stupidity. So just every time you're in traffic, this is what's calmed me down a lot, because I hate having a car that can go 240 miles an hour and not being able to go 35 miles an hour on the effing highway. But that's the life I live. So, but instead of getting mad, I just go, look, if there weren't all these dummies, right? If there weren't all these idiots making really poor traffic choices, if there weren't all these idiots doing stupid stuff in society, if there weren't all these dummies investing in ridiculous ways based on crap they heard on CNBC, listening to Kramer, listening to all these D-bags talk, Steve Leismans of the world, there'd be no money for us to make. So we are always endeavoring to do intellectual arbitrage. Yep. Okay. I will let you guys choose. Do you want to do AI news first and then look at markets? Or because things are kind of a little bit green, do you want to celebrate this green holiday day and look at markets first, AI news second? I'll let you choose, and I'll use the glory and wisdom of the chat. Let's see. Oh, we're all just in various stages of dumbassness. Okay, Ronald called it. Market it is. Maybe get one of those flying cars. They're instituting those flying cars in certain places like outside of San Francisco and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. You have to think about like traffic in three dimensions. That's a whole other thing. Okay, we'll look at markets first. The people have spoken, even if the people don't want to spell markets correctly. But you know what? I don't care. You know what the word is. You don't really need to know how to spell it. AI is going to spell everything for us. So let's do that then. All right. Well, markets. Woo woo. Okay. Look at these Bitcoins. So, let me pop back to my last one. Okay, cool. I can't put everybody's, but if you have a question that's somewhat relative and I can see it, I'll pop it on there and we'll give it a talk. Let's see. Let me get down. Okay, cool. Segment intro fallacy. Wait, was it? Did I use the wrong one? I thought I used the market one. Oh, anyway. So let's take a look. Let me kill these. Oh, yeah. Okay. Occasionally they do these updates to, it doesn't matter. Anyway, they did one. It's better. I just have to learn how to use it. Sometimes they'll put the buttons in different places. So here's what's going on. Bitcoin, 30,939. So late last week-ish, Thursday, Friday, we heard that the Gary Gensler and his merry band of, I don't want to say they're idiots, but they're sometimes, I think maybe they're not the sharpest. I think Gary is incredibly intelligent, but I think he's maybe plagued by a bit of vanity. Anyway, he's saying some stuff. He's become too big for his britches, as they say. Anyway, he made some statements that none of the ETF filings met the requirements they were looking for. They were not satisfactory. Then he got a phone call because we were joking, well, his career is pretty much finished because now you're going against BlackRock. BlackRock had an ETF filing. Fidelity jumped on. Wisdom Tree jumped on. Everybody's been refiling. Even ARK, even Kathy. Even the dummy committee known as ARK Investments, they refiled. Well, they're all getting on the back of BlackRock. So Gary, they put out a statement saying, wait. No. You misunderstood what we meant. We just meant we need clarity. Sure, Gary. Sure. That's what you meant after you got a phone call from indirect phone call from BlackRock. So we were joking that someone's going to call that guy and tell him to get a case of act right or his career's finished. If only his career. BlackRock will kill people. They wouldn't kill Gary. They just kill his career. But you got 50, 40, 30, who knows what their real exposure is out there. I don't know. They got 52 trillion, something like that. It's hard to say. But anyway, point is you don't go against BlackRock, and if you do, you don't do it very long. Anyway, so they, like less than a day later, they clarified, no. We didn't mean that these aren't right. We just meant we need more clarity on a couple of issues. We need a couple of things cleaned up. We just need to be, so it had to do with reference. It was like reference pricing, and they want to be able to make sure that trades are not fake trades or like this pumping dumpy bull crap that's used just to spike the market that would mess with the futures contract. Only the reason all this is stupid is because there's already an ETF. There's already Bitcoin ETFs. They're just cash settled. So the same crap that he's complaining about, and this is why the BlackRock lawsuit against the SEC is talking about arbitrary and capricious treatment of the law, right? Like a spot ETF, no, but a cash settled, yes. Why? Well, custody. Okay, but they solved custody. Well, something else that we haven't said yet. A rumor that Gary will resign. Well, then don't spread it. It's a rumor. Gary's not going to resign. They're going to make him walk away, or they're going to make him an offer he can't refuse. I don't know. It's unlikely he'll walk away. That would be a huge act of cowardice on his part. And if you're in Gary's shoes, look, a lot of people point their ire at Gary. Ain't nothing wrong with what Gary's doing. He has a very thin, narrow band of tools. Again, if you have a hammer, everything that comes across the desk looks like a nail. It's not his job to create law. That's legislation, legislators. So, if you guys are really frustrated in general, it's not Gary. Gary's not a dumb guy. I think his whole point was to try to force action on the side of legislatures to create laws. They don't want to set down a regulatory framework, and then they're blaming Gary. Gary, you're going after all this technology. Well, then make something that doesn't clearly violate the last rule change we have about securities, which is 1934, 33, and 34, if you want to get super techie about it. So either you clear up the securities laws for digital assets or you stuff it. That's basically what he's saying, but everybody's mad at him. It's like you're mad at the cop because you got busted doing a crime. No, man, the crime, it's like that's the people who create laws decide what is and isn't a crime. The cops are just enforcing it. Don't get mad at the cops. So anyway, I had to take Gary's side because, hey, it's holiday. All right. Let's see. When the SEC is suing Coinbase. Well, Coinbase is also litigating against, I don't know if there's what is that? Is there a question in there? Kip, is that a question? I don't know I don't think there's a question in there. I think you're just maybe, I would say read that over 14 times, Kip, and somewhere in there is going to be you're going to come to some kind of like mental consensus. Okay. Let's see. Red Oak asks, thought on Bitcoin dominance and altcoins bleed that Ben Cohen. Well, Ben Cohen has been totally wrong. I don't know why so many people hang on his bullshit. He's a nice guy. First of all, super nice guy, but he's been making these calls for years. He's like the broken watch guy. Twice a day, I nail it. Yeah, except for all the other minutes that you blow it. He's like terribly wrong. And people are just like, oh my God, it's coming true. It's not coming true. These markets go up and down. Like if you make a prediction, there's a good chance at some point, some of it's going to come true. You just leave it vague. This whole Bitcoin dominance thing doesn't make any sense. You can't make predictions based on the path that is backwards facing. It just doesn't make any sense. Like it's so counterintuitive and so flawed. You know, I guess forget Cohen for a second. I think that people want to hang on an oracle of some kind, and they think that maybe somebody's got it figured out. You think Ben's rich? He ain't. He analyzes the past, he uses technical analysis, and he makes some assertions, some assumptions based on very weak premises. Now, they're strong looking backwards, but everything is 100% accurate looking backwards because it's historical. If you're not using like fake history, right? Like that's a whole other thing. So yeah, when you look backwards, everything looks, I got it nailed. I'm nailed. Technical analysis does not work. It's 30% accurate. So 1 in 3 times, it works every time. And 67% of the time, it never works, bro. And it's backwards looking. And so I just urge people, yes, right. Everything's accurate when you look in the rearview mirror. But when you look forward and you don't have, I mean, we're going through a whole world shift with AI. Give me one a-hole that can predict that. Nobody, not even AI. There is an insurmountable amount of uncertainty about the future. And I'm not lashing out on you. I'm lashing out on it's the concept. I've been beating this drum for a while about the failings of technical analysis. It's necessary to understand. I think it's cool for thought experimentation, but it is tragically flawed and not sufficient to trade against. And I don't know, man. A lot of people, they trade and get blown up. I hear about it all the time. Like, hey, I'm trading this. Stop. What happens, here's the way I think you should look at trading. You look at historical precedent and you go, that's interesting that happened in the past. It's going to give you some ideas about how humans behave in a market. Makes sense. Okay. So then you take that and you do some fundamental analysis and you try to find some way, BZ, you try to find some way to look at the future and go, okay, look, I think my version of what the future is going to look like is XYZ. Great. Because every one of us has to do that individually. No one can tell you that. Like no one, like not George Soros and not go through your list of people that you like to listen to. I mean, I love Jeff Snyder is a good friend of mine. Emil Kalinowski. Jeff is a brilliant study of Fed policy and interest rates and the Eurodollar system and all that. But he's not. I mean, if we're being honest. He's not a trader. He's not trading off that information. Their fund is not doing all that well. Now, again, they're limited mostly in equities, and he's got Steven Van Meter, unfortunately, dragging him down. But even Steven's not a bad guy. He's not a dummy. He talks a little funny, and you might think he's special needs, but he's not a dummy. But they're not doing well in markets. It's analyzing data in the past and making inferences is valuable, but it's not sufficient. You can't sufficiently, what that takes, that's part of that intellectual arbitrage we're talking about. You have to, your edge, all of us here, our edge is that we endeavor to understand the market as it is right now and what the future might look like just better than the people next to us at the water cooler. That's all we're trying to do, right? Just be the fastest kid at the campfire, faster than the fat kids. Because that's who the bears eat. The bears eat the fat kids. So you have to be careful that you don't start becoming the fat kid by focusing more because it feels good, right? Oh, this guy said it's going to do this. Well, be very careful. Be very careful the people that spend their lives telling you what's going to happen when it never happens. I would endeavor as an individual investor to take more time and try to get the broad strokes of the people you admire. So pick 5 people. Like, I'll give you an example. I like Jeffrey Gunlock, David Green. I like listening to Emil. Obviously, Ben Gortzel, Tufi Saliba, Dan Tolliver. There's a handful of people that I think are intellectual. And I just kind of try to absorb their thought process. None of them have it like perfect, right? Like, everybody makes mistakes and things like, but you just try to find the people that you intellectually relate with, and you absorb. Remember that show Heroes? And it was the one guy, what was his name? The one guy that his special power was stealing everyone else's special power. You should be like that guy. It wasn't Simon. It was some kind of name like that. But anyway, his special power was he could absorb other heroes' special powers. That should be your power. Your power should be, let's find the people that I kind of agree with intellectually and that they statistically make pretty good decisions, or their analysis is really astute. And I just want to absorb their thinking process. I want to get like those broad strokes. Sylar, yes. Mandatory Metallica. Everybody needs to go and like check out, just so you know who that guy is. So that's the way I've always, what up, Big Dave? I've always thought about, like, that's the way to get really smart. I had a friend of mine who had mentored with a billionaire, and his whole thing was like, well, when are you going to get to hang out with a billionaire? And I was like, yeah, that's a good question. He's like, he got there somehow. I was like, that is a good point. But I don't think it's that billionaire actually end up going to prison. So I was like, damn, you mentored with the wrong guy. He's like, yeah, I know. Dang it. But the point is, I'm not going to say who it is. MCI WorldCom. But anyway, my point to all this is, when you guys are looking at these markets, I think it's best to get as deep into the fundamental side as you can and stay away from predictions, near-term price action, all that kind of stuff. I would stay far, far away from that. And if you do that, you're going to end up being better on the aggregate than your peers. And we need dummies in these markets. It is what it is. That's the intellectual arbitrage that we've been talking about. So now after that wasn't really a rant. It's kind of a rant. Anyway, stay away from technical analysis. God, there's plenty of dummies that will tell you all about that on your now limited to 600 tweets a day. If you want to go and get your marching orders on Twitter. God, you see that? Boy, Elon is a dick. Anyway, good for Elon. All right. Bitcoin, 30,900. We went into a pretty deep discussion about this both Friday, I think, and on Private Client. We did it on Saturday, where we were really thinking, okay, what is this going to look like? Remember that we are approaching the halving. Now, that really only matters for Bitcoin ideologues. See, the thing is about Bitcoin, if you reduce your thinking, you say, okay, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin's kind of its own asset all to itself. And right now it may look like it's, bogarting market share from all these other assets. It's like the crypto market, but the crypto market is an illiquid market. Anyway, it's an illiquid, tiny market, but mostly nascent, not even a really developed market. Not yet. Not when we're at $1 trillion. If we're at 10 trillion or 40 trillion or 100 trillion, then you have a market. And we're not going to probably get there until we see, well, as AI gobbles the world, central bank issue digital assets. And so, we're early, man. And this is why be more fundamentalist and think, okay, Bitcoin's its own thing. It's kind of like a savings account. It's kind of a better version of gold. Now, if these two things are coming, Bitcoin probably does well. The halving, May 2024. We know that's happening because it's a fixed date. Okay, cool. Well, in the halving, the block reward will go down. And if demand is the same, this is a big key. Go back to your Econ 101. If demand is the same and supply new supply is reduced, then that should have an accretive price effect, right? There's a lot of ifs there, and those are all incredibly weak assumptions. What if the world doesn't want as much Bitcoin? What if more money flows into the digital asset space through AI assets, through layer one investment, through central bank digital currencies on whatever platforms they launch on? The only thing I know what won't happen is governments are not leveraging XRP. This whole reset thing, every time I go to a party, I hear the dumbest things. That was one of them. The other one was somebody was telling me that, oh yeah, the governments are going to partner up with Solana. No, man, no, they're not. It's so dumb. Anyway, God. So sometimes you hear some silly stuff at parties. Such is the nature of Hollywood parties. Well, but in addition to the halving, which is there's a lot of maybes there, but let's assume that demand is consistent. Okay, so the block reward is reduced. Yeah, there's less new Bitcoin. Yeah, for the mining community to sell. Mining community, many miners will shut off rigs unless it's profitable based on electricity, based on a variety of factors, and manpower and location and equipment. And, you have to upgrade and renew and gentrify your electronics, your ASICs rigs and your hashing equipment, all that kind of stuff. So based on a lot of factors, you would think, okay, well, Bitcoin, if everything else is the same, Bitcoin would go up. Yes, if everything stays the same, but we already know that everything hasn't stayed the same. 1 year ago, Bitcoin was down around 16K. 2 years ago, it was 69,000. So in that 24-month stretch, it'd be very difficult to guess that. When it was going up towards 69,000, I didn't hear any of those D-bags saying we're going to see 16,000. There was a couple of those outlier a-holes like Tone Bay's like, it's going to 1,000. Shut up, dummy. Like these dudes, here's what happens. You have to publish something. You have no real ability to understand the market. So all you do is focus on price because since price goes up and down like a meth addict's EKG, or I heard this English guy say, like a hole's draws, which I thought was great. But since price goes up and down forever, you can always make an outlandish up or an outlandish down price, and you can do some bait clicky bullshitty headline chasing. And that's what all these dudes come out and do because no one's listened to them in a while and no one cares what they have to say. They're like, Bitcoin's going to 1,000. Well, I think it's going to 1,000,000. Remember those D-bags? Like what was earlier in the year that were like Bitcoin to 1,000,000 by March. You were like, shut up, stupid. Like it's just stupid, outlandish crap, right? So it's just like, whatever, man. So that's all noise. And you just have to like, turn the noise down. So, okay. What else is kind of Bitcoin accretive? Well, a spot ETF a rule change allowing a spot ETF, an actual Bitcoin settled ETF, that'd be a big deal. And the reason that'd be a big deal is because of the weird perverse markets it creates a perverse market situation. Go look at the gold ETF and its creation. It put about a 4X on gold over about so many years, right? So, and I'm not going to go and do a deep study, but I came from the gold business. That was my like DNA. And I would urge everyone to go and look at I wouldn't Google it. I would Bing it, or actually I would go to Chat GPT. I would enable Bing search. If you use GPT-4, go enable Bing search because it's real time. And so you don't have to be like, it only goes to 2021. None of this information is accurate to my deep research. And then you look up the price of, ask GPT, how was the price of gold affected after the release of the spot settled gold ETFs? And it's going to it's going to pour you out a bunch of a pretty good chain of consciousness that explains that by doing that, you create all of these synthetic markets on top of this otherwise innocuous spot settled market. So you have all the derivatives that stack on top of it. So options, both on the call and put side, fast forwards, future swaps, and other kind of more nebulous derivative instruments that are on top of those instruments, right? Gambling on an instrument. So when that happens, like you have a situation right now, we're in the gold market, you have 1 physical ounce of gold, and for every physical ounce of gold, you have more than 500 paper ounces of gold. And you would say, that doesn't make sense. It does if you look at all these derivative products. Just look at all the options contracts that float around these products. And then the futures contracts, both on the long and the short side. And in a spot settled market, you would actually have to deliver the asset or reach some settlement agreement to avoid delivery. But then you have forwards and you have leaps and futures and the CD and the swaps market. You have a lot of stuff. So I think net, it would both pervert and jack the price of Bitcoin. I think more than the halving. But none of those price effects are some massive worldwide Bitcoinization, Bitcoin standard and all that. I contend, just my humble opinion, that currencies need to be expansionary and contractionary. They need to be elastic. If you don't have currency elasticity, prices go to the effing moon, right? The problem is that the human part in the middle where it's time to contract the currency supply and no one gets rehired on that platform, turns out. So there's a lot of problems. Hopefully when AI reaches AGI and we have some digital superintelligence, that superintelligence is going to be less human and going to be able to contract in real time and expand in real time a country's outstanding cash, and there's all sorts of things that would be just amazing if they were done in real time, which humans don't do because we're just debaucherous, douchey crap heads. Anyway, okay, so that's the Bitcoin thing. So what could one expect from Bitcoin over the next year? I mean, probably Bitcoin goes up, but it's not a direct corollary that cannibalizes all of the rest of the assets. Matter of fact, alternative assets, which is everything that ain't Bitcoin, turns out to perform, at least in the history that we have, way better than Bitcoin. So short of a massive worldwide referendum where we onboard everyone to Bitcoin, which by the way is super stupid. I mean, just absurdly stupid. But let's say we did that. Again, you would make more people poor than ever before. You would decimate markets. You would have zero control over currency. Like it's so tragically flawed. We shouldn't even talk about it. But think of all of the new currency units that are going to be chasing other assets as this digital world gets built. So if you buy into the bullshitty argument of Bitcoin, the Michael Saylor argument, every government, every bank, everyone, including aliens in space, which probably don't even exist, they're all going to be using the Bitcoin standard, Michael, right? Because what? Because you're a degenerate gambler and you over leverage yourself. Got it. However, in that situation, there'd be tons of currency units pouring into the other ecosystem assets. So it's kind of, I don't know, man, it's kind of a flawed. I think people are talking their book and they're drinking their own Kool-Aid and they're getting into these tiny little echo chambery things where they're just talking to their friends and everybody agrees. I agree too. Look at us agreeing. That doesn't make it so. Yeah. So let's see. Volkser, trying to find background on Cryptopia. Do you know how Dr. Gortzel connected with him? Well, Cryptopia was one of the first seed investors into Hypercycle. They were one of the earliest. I thought I was early and they were before me. They were earlier. And so they had just started out as investors and then they really decided that they liked the ecosystem and they wanted to participate in a more meaningful way. So they built a pretty cool relationship. And I only know I've communicated with one of the guys there, Richie, and he seems really cool. But only like on a group like Hypercycle team chat. I don't know them personally. I'm not going to co-sign for him or anything like that. So anyway, Yeah, I hope MT Gox gets all that behind us. Okay, let's move on past the Bitcoin. We have Ethereum kind of flirting with the 2000 level, which is silly. It just shows that an ineptitude of them to scale the tech, because if so, the prices would decline because it would be more efficient. And the only use for Ethereum is buying other Ethereum assets. That's a whole quagmire thing. XRP is awaiting their some outcome that may or may not be disputed, some settlement. I don't know. My guess is the decision is very narrow in its scope. They're not going to use this to set precedent. They're not going to use this to create law, although other projects will probably say, hey, look, that court said. So my guess is there'll be a relief rally, but that will be momentary. That will be fleeting. And then everybody will be left with, wait, what does this actually mean? And I think nothing valuable will come out of it because they're going to write the decision so narrowly. Anyway, we'll see. The Cardano, almost 30 cents. You're like, yeah, well, except that it was $3. I saw it got $3.20 like 2 Septembers ago. So, I mean, 30 cents is cool if you bought it. I bought mine like less than 2 cents. So I'm happy, and I've been staking for years, also happy. And I used Cardano to spin into a bunch of other assets, mostly AI assets. So very happy, not a hater. But maybe Charles needs to stop fishing for fucking meteorites and start paying attention to the markets. No offense, Charles, you're a great guy, but quit being a dickbag billionaire for a while and get back to the community that funded all of your shit. There we go. This video is going to so get nuked. That's why I don't do any advertisements. No advertisement. See, this is what digital heavyweights, we get to do all this kind of stuff all the time. Plus, we get to actually dig into the money. All right, Dogecoin. What would dummies do? Well, dummies are pretty quiet right now. As you can tell, they've been quiet for about a year. Matic seems to be melting up a little bit, but it got beat up pretty hard. As you can see, it's still down on the 90-day, about like just shy of 38%, but it's up on the year. So a lot of people start looking at this. They start going, okay, so did we come out of this kind of bearish, sad, quiet phase? Well, not really, because in January, AI assets took off. And the market looked okay. It looked like, hey, we've gotten out of the bottom. And I don't just look at the Bitcoin price and say, well, that's the bottom, because a lot of the other assets, they all bottom at different places. But most of the world looks at all of crypto as Bitcoin. So you could make an argument, but if you make an argument about the market, so let me just jump up real quick. This is where your arguments are, right? This. And if you look at this, and this is the market cap of the whole market, June 14th of last year, well, that was the low point, right? At least on this market cap analysis thing that goes back quite a bit. So, I mean, that's kind of how I look at things. And until this market cap is in the trillions, many trillions, remember in 2021, now that was peak stupid, but we were right around 3 trillion, a little bit over. So until we're back there, we're not even back to where we were. So we're like a third of the way there. So we're still deep in the doldrums and look, the world is in a macroeconomic chaos. We're in deflationary effing chaos with a huge, commercial real estate and banking time bomb that's like slowly blowing up. It's, you know what? It's a time burn, not a time bomb. It's not like a pop. I mean, there's a good chance the pop's already happened. Quietly, we're going to see banks go away, small and regionals go away. We're going to see a lot of weird, unserviceable commercial real estate projects get melted to dust. That's going to be nasty. So we're not out of the woods, but foundational assets, your layer ones, your layer twos, some of your AI assets, I think are still going to do fine. And I think this entire market is still very investable. So, all right, Polkadot, no one cares. Gavin and his team of merry men and women, and they're all high. They're all high AF. They don't seem, they're rich, man. That's a project where a bunch of rich, sophisticates, eccentric, erudite. Oh, this is a great idea. Let me explain it to you because it's quite complicated. Why is it complicated? Because it's a great idea. Nah, I don't know, man. Einstein said like things should be as simple as possible and no simpler. This is as complex as possible and no money is to be made. So that's just my take on it. Okay, great. Cosmos, great project, great returns. It's been very consistent. My problem with Cosmos is not the project. It's not the team. It's not anything other than it just may be one too many. I don't know if it ever gets great adoption. And I guess I'm willing to keep getting 20% a year compounded to see if I'm right or wrong. I have to check what my aggregate is, but I think I'm in this thing at like $6 or something like that. I don't know where it goes. My gut tells me that I want to own it for what would be a bullish market. Beyond that, I don't think I think there need to be some layer one partnerships and kind of like mergers, whatever that looks like in the crypto space. I don't think we've had that yet. I think we will have it. And I think a lot of these layer ones are just going to slowly go away because you just don't need a bunch of layer ones. I hope Cosmos makes it. I just don't know. I certainly like his chances better than Algorand, even though Algorand has like one of the best teams out there because they're a bunch of arrogant jerks. Anyway, Filecoin, big data, love it. VeChain's play on China. I guess take a flyer on it if you want to. Keep it small. Keep it small because betting on China is and also that team there is they're very sketchy. Like the VeChain team is incredibly sketchy. They're cool, but they're sketchy. You wouldn't like loan them money, like any amount. And if you're buying their token, you are loaning them money. So be very careful. Near, coolest technology that no one cares about. That's Near. All right. Oh, they have a partnership with Alibaba or something like that. To do what? Well, to be a partner. Right. What are they doing? They're going to NFTs and stuff. Oh, get off the gas. Graph token performing well over the last few days. Every douchebag guru seems to pump it. Listen, if enough people pump a thing goes. I think Graph token is a cool project, which may be obsoleted by tech. So this is not advice, but I'm changing the way I look at Graph token. I don't know. It's just something tells me we're never ever going back to $2.89. Period. Full stop. But we could get $1.50 or $2 in an expansionary big growth market where everybody's like looking, where can I make my next? Even though you only have 100%, right? And if you invested in 45 things and one of them goes up 10x and the rest, then you made 4% because you're over diversified. So I really think you want to coalesce your thought process into like 5 to 7 core assets. Anyway, that's another story for another time. Algorand, cool project, bro. Silvio, you rock, except that you arrogant jerks don't feel like you have any need to communicate with the public. And if that's the case, great. They're doing a little bit better. They are doing a little bit better. But I actually knew their head of marketing, and I petitioned, lobbied. I forget what they called it, like in the old days. I sue for a meeting with the chancellor. Like you would say that. Anyway, I talked to one of their biggest investors and said, that guy's got to go. He's just a douchebag. Good thing they fired him. I can't wait till I see him again. I wonder if I'll see him. I may see him at a 4th of July party. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I am going to ask. I'm going to pretend I don't know he got fired and ask him how it's going at Algorand. And be like, yeah, I saw the price is down 70% since the last time we talked, Barry. Oh, wait, did I disclose his name? It could be anything. It could be any name that rhymes with Barry that is Barry. All right. Render, it's just a spammy sentiment coin pumped by Hollywood douchebags. All right. Flow's actually been getting a nice little bid lately. Why? Well, I don't know. The news I see is kind of back and forth. It looks a little spammy and whatever. Would I be investing in Flow? It is a layer one in the NFT space. No, the team is just not It's just not enough. And the reason is smart team, innovative team, they're not looking past douchey, stupid NFTs. They're not looking at the future. Non-fungible assets is protected data. And I think that's where the value is. I think that's what the people are missing. It's not stupid. It's not a bunch of slam dunks. Oh, I can own a slam dunk. Well, you don't own the dunk. That the league owns. What do I own? You own a video of the dunk. What does that even mean? It's like a baseball card that moves and does a dunk. But what does that even mean? And that's what they're focused on. They're not looking past the stupid yet. So we'll see. Maybe they will. Hey, listen, all these companies are just one hire or one fire. Well, in Ripple's case, 2 fires away from being a great company. Let me ask you this in the chat. Would you invest in Ripple equity or XRP if Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Grand-Larceny, if Garlic-Mouth and Grand-Larceny got booted? I mean, sorry. If they resigned, this is how you know they're douchebags. If they left, to me, it's more investable. Well, it's more investable. But yeah, Ronald says no. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Who am I kidding? There's nothing there to invest in. But if there was, it would be, okay, let me ask you this. Would it be more investable if Chris and Brad were gone than it is now? Different question. I think it would be more investable. Would I invest in it? No. There's no, David Schwartz is a great guy, but he's also not, he's intellectually not kept up. He's rich. He's rich and he's lazy. These guys get lazy, man. All right. Zcash. Nope. Ocean. Data, a marketplace. The world needs data. AI needs data. Yes, and thank you. Singularity Net. Yes. At these levels, tough to say. It's hard to buy Singularity Net at 26 cents when we were buying it at, 4 cents. But I don't think there's a better team in AI. So there you go. All right. And I mean the entire ecosystem, minus the Cogito team. Optimism. I am optimistic. I will be adding. It's a layer 2. It helps. It's like Matic. I try to keep equal positions between Matic and Optimism. They're also very close with Coinbase, which is very close with BlackRock. Okay. Arweave. Data. Yes. Fetch. AI. Mostly automotive. None of their partnerships have really delivered the goods yet, but let's just chalk that up to they'll get there. I hope they'll get there. Would I be buying it at these levels? Not advice, but I am not at these levels buying it. Yeah. Ravencoin. Nope, it's dummy coin. Only reason I even track it is because I have a ton of them stuck on an exchange that got shut down after it got hacked and all this kind of crap. And I'm still waiting for them, and it's been like 4 years. All right, so the second I get them, I will sell them. Great. Harmony 1 performing quite well comparatively to some of these other. It's a layer 2. It scales Ethereum. They have some cool stuff. I don't know if their team, if the bench is heavy enough with like thought leaders. That's where on the 5 Ts I think they would suffer, is the team part of it. It's a lottery ticket, right? You just have to be honest with yourself. Okay, Numeraire is a no for me. It's very interesting. I'm just not that interested. I think everything they do will just be driven by code, and that means AI, and that means less humans, and so why would I give humans money? Okay, Singularity DAO, they're going through a restructuring. They're gentrifying their platform. They're endeavoring to become a full DEX, like full on. So I guess I'm interested to see what they can do. I would not be buying the token right now. And listen, I'm very close with Mario and Marcello. But if I had to put new money in, I would not be putting new money in, even though they're performing, quite well. All right. Rejuve. I'm only putting rewards in this. I don't know why this token exists yet. I understand what they're saying. It just right now doesn't make sense. I do like the idea of longevity research, things like that. I'm on board. I'm bought in, but I'm not actually buying in. Just me personally. You do you. NewNet is a yes for me because of everything they're trying to achieve, utilizing dormant compute assets and contributing to like global, kind of the net of global compute. Hypercycle, well, it's done quite well yesterday, has it not? It was up over 40 cents a little while ago. Look at that. Woo-woo. So it was touching its, what it says is the all-time highs. I think that was the closing high because it got almost to $1.80 or something like that on the day one spike. But as far as the closing 24-hour high, I guess it was pretty much at that today. In fact, if we look, I think we were, look at that. So it was right at, it was just smooching. Matter of fact, while we've been talking, right as the show launched, it was smooching its all-time highs. Again, these are illiquid assets on very few illiquid exchanges being traded by sketchy, dubious individuals. Hypercycle in particular, there's a very low token float. So just be very careful on a lot of these assets. And listen, I'm a big fan of Hypercycle. I've got lots. But I also know that it's an illiquid asset. But I'm looking at the future, and I like the idea of a layer zero that's not reliant on a blockchain. You start thinking, wait, a layer zero, would that sit beneath layer ones? Yes. So would other things like Algorand, Cosmos, Cardano, Ethereum, Near, could they potentially run compute on top of Hypercycle? Yes. So do layer ones kind of become layer twos in a world where Hypercycle could sit underneath them? Yes, dummies. And I don't mean anybody here. Obviously, you guys are all very smart, but like, and that's also the story they're not really telling at Hypercycle, because, you know, they're not really trying to be openly competing with a lot of layer ones. They don't want to make enemies. But if we're being honest, if you're paying $10 a month for electricity and someone's like, hey, I'll do it for $1. You're like, wait, what? You're like, yeah, I'll give you your same electricity for $1. You're like, how do you do that? We do it because we're blah, 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 blah. You're like, oh, well, oh, all right. Here's $1, I guess. Just plug me in. You're going to see a lot of that, especially as the world is racing and fighting for more compute. And we're not even going to talk about Cogito because, I mean, so far it's a dumpster fire. So there we go. Woo-woo. So we nailed that. Let's switch gears. What does low token float mean? Low liquidity, not many tokens, right? Well, it just means that. Low liquidity, not many tokens. Okay. Have I considered any other projects in the Cosmos ecosystem? Not really, because I kind of reduced my thinking to, if anybody in the Cosmos ecosystem really knocks it out of the park, that's still good for Cosmos. And I just rather own the railways. I'm an infrastructure investor. I'm not investing in every, goddamn, there's so many projects. You guys know this. There's just so many projects. And to be fair, there are a lot of cool projects in the Cosmos ecosystem. It's just, you can't keep up with all that stuff, and you got to put your money somewhere. So putting it everywhere just doesn't make sense. Again, I think it would be best if everybody endeavored, try to reduce your thinking to say, 5 to 7 assets, 10 at the outside. Just be very careful. The only reason I have a big, giant, fat, rich portfolio is because over many years, I've been buying stuff that, I've already cashed out. Well, not cashed out, but cashed across. I've never cashed out of crypto. And I built from my original investment was like $7,200. Now I had a lot more money that I eventually came in with. Not a lot, my silver and gold money. But at first it was like $7,200. And I banged that up to just under $1 million. And then I was like, whoa, okay, there's something here. And then I put in another couple hundred racks. And I've pushed that over. Well, it doesn't matter what I pushed it over, but I pushed it well past the early 8 figures. How about that? For those math out there. I have not obviously gotten the third comma. The third comma is you may never get it, but I've got 2 commas and 2 digits. So I'm happy. but my goal is 9 figures. When I get 9 figures, I'm deucing out. It's going to be me and the digital private clients. But don't worry, I probably won't be there for another 6 or 8 months. All right. Enough of the whimsical. Let's do this. Let's go and let's spend a little time not talking about money at all. And I was like, we love money. We love to talk about money. Yeah, well, we've talked about money. Let's talk about consciousness and interconnections and intelligence and knowledge, and make sure that we get it, that those are different. A lot of times people confuse people that have knowledge with being intelligent. And I am here to say that is not the case. It is sometimes the case, but it is less the case. Let me see. This is a good question before we bust out. As holders of AGIX or Hypercycle, will we get some of the Hyper PG partnership? No, you would not. If you have the tokens, but AGIX is not involved in the Hyper PG partnership. So Singularity Net, already you need to cross that off your mind. If you own the Hypercycle token and the token is being implemented in nodes inside Hyper PG, it's Hyper PG, not Hypercycle PG, it's Hyper PG. And that's the partnership between Penguin and Hypercycle. If the tokens are part of nodes, those nodes are processing compute and AI compute, well then you benefit because you would own the tokens, or you benefit because of the appreciation because you've taken your Hypercycle tokens, parked them in a node, and you're getting paid a return on that. But no, you're not. It's a private company that is a partnership between Hypercycle. And remember, Hypercycle is not owned by Singularity Net. Hypercycle, Ben Gortzel is a part of Hypercycle, Tufi Saliba, Dan Tolliver, that whole crew of brainiacs. But Hypercycle does not get its marching orders from AGIX. So, I mean, I guess, no, you will not. But the token will benefit if, and this is a big if, but if the network and the ecosystem appreciate and get bigger and fatter and more delicious, then so would your holdings. So there. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's spend about 5 minutes before you go and just gorge yourself tomorrow, probably. Let's spend a few minutes talking about knowledge.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Okay, so you say, okay, knowledge. Why do I care? You care. There's the intricate trio. I'm actually going to talk about a fourth element, but the trio is basically the interconnectedness between knowledge, intelligence, and consciousness. So sit back, relax for a second, and just absorb this. Even if you just say, this is stupid, just absorb. The complex world of human cognition, often cloaked in mystique and wonder, beckons us to delve into its depths and unravel the intricacies that lie within. 3 of the most captivating facets are, and you hear this all the time and you read about it, and sometimes they get confused. Knowledge and intelligence, they get confused all the time. But then enters a knock on the door, consciousness. So although these are interconnected, each carry their own distinct features and meanings. Knowledge, so the first of the triad. I think it's triage and triad. Anyway, knowledge is a compilation of facts, information, and skills acquired through experience or education, like a book, stuff in a book. Imagine it as a vast library with each book representing a nugget of information, a skill or an experience, some experiential moment. In our journey through life, we continuously add to this collection, right? So from moment to moment, we learn to walk and talk, or to get better at walking and talking. Hopefully we're not stubbing our toe on everything. We learn to communicate, to master calculus, to learn to play a musical instrument, or throw a ball, or catch a ball, or make a karate chop or something. These are additions to our personal library of knowledge. However, it's essential to note the size of this library doesn't determine its usefulness, right? It's the quality, it's the relevance, It's the accessibility of the knowledge that's what really counts. The next aspect of the triad is intelligence. This can be seen as the librarian of the knowledge. So you have your knowledge library. Right now you have the librarian. And this is the capacity to learn, to reason, to understand, and to adapt, right? Intelligence helps us process the information contained in that library and organize it efficiently and use it to solve problems or create something new. While knowledge is like the raw material, the intelligence, remember we were talking the other day about tokens and parameters. You could think about knowledge like parameters, right? Tokens are the bits of words. It's very interesting how all of these, how everybody has had to regress to learning about thought again, and agency and theory of mind and things like this, because artificial intelligence has forced it into like the frontal lobes. Anyway, so while knowledge is the raw material, intelligence is the tool that shapes and molds this material into something useful. It's measured not by how much a person knows, but by how well one can apply and manipulate what they know, right? So lastly, we come to consciousness, and this is the kind of the most elusive of all of these three. Consciousness, and again, I tread lightly when I talk about consciousness because, you know, some people contend that a banana, because it interacts with the environment, it has a level of consciousness. I'm not going to go down like philosophy like lane, but for the sake of our little discussion, consciousness will be the awareness we have of ourselves, like a self-awareness, and of our environment, like that spatial awareness. It's the reader who visits the library. Does that make sense? So knowledge are the books, right? Intelligence is the librarian. Consciousness is the reader that visits the library, the experiencer of thoughts and emotions, the self-aware entity that perceives and feels and understands. Consciousness allows us to experience our existence, to feel joy, sorrow, love, and a myriad of other emotions. By the way, those are all of the same things that detract from good game theoretical decision-making in investment markets. But I digress. Consciousness is what differentiates a human being from a robot, which can contain knowledge and display intelligence, but lacks self-awareness, at least right now, and the ability to experience emotions. In a nutshell, knowledge is what we know, intelligence is how we process and use what we know, and consciousness is our awareness and perception of what we know and feel. These three elements, while they are distinct in their essence, they work in harmony to shape our experiences and our understanding of the world that surrounds us. And it's fascinating to note, by the way, that a machine can be programmed to have vast amounts of knowledge, and it can be designed to display intelligence. However, consciousness, with its kind of subjective experiences and self-awareness, is something based on your definition of consciousness, but it's something that seems, at least by our definition, pretty much uniquely human. I contend that as we increase the ways that these systems function, and I don't think we're going to get there through transformer networks, right? Any more than you can teach like a golden retriever Dutch, just by practicing harder. And I think that these more, the bigger language models, more efficient transformer networks is like training a dog harder. He's still not going to learn to speak Dutch, right? But using transformer networks with deep neural nets and symbolic learning engines and a bunch of this other cool tech all together creates something that may be conscious. And so it gets pretty interesting. This is the path that we're all on, this path towards artificial general intelligence, which is really cool. Anyway, in conclusion, the realms of knowledge, intelligence, and consciousness offer a fascinating insight into our kind of human cognitive apparatus. And while they do intertwine and interact in very complex ways, and a lot of this is nuanced, obviously, each possesses unique characteristics that set them apart. So together, they weave this kind of rich tapestry in our brains, creating a symphony of cognition that is both intriguing and awe-inspiring. And every one of us are along this journey, right? Unless you've had some like brain damage. This is an exploration of these facets, And you should take some time to kind of think about this. It enriches like our understanding of ourselves, just simply considering these things, right? It also propels us towards the ever-evolving frontier of human potential. Like everybody has potential to do better. If you spend your life watching reality TV, I would say that while you may have potential, you're less likely to achieve it. I could go into a whole story about just people that just are stuck on reality TV and how awful that is. Like shrinks your brain, like parts of your brain that like reduces neuronal activity. It's mind numbing, literally. Anyway, really quickly, I'll leave you with this, and then we can call it a day. Knowledge is defined as a compilation of facts, information, and skills acquired through experience or education. You can visualize this as this big library with each book representing a nugget of information or a skill or an experience. The size of the library is not what's important. It's the quality, relevance, and your ability to access those books. Okay, cool. Intelligence is your capacity to learn, to reason, to understand, to adapt to things which you may or may not have any control over. Intelligence serves as the librarian of the knowledge, right? And processing and organizing information. Great. It's measured not by how much one knows, but by how well one can apply and manipulate what they know. And then you have consciousness, which is the awareness that we have of ourselves and of our environment. It acts as a reader, like who visits that library, the experiencer of thoughts and emotions. It allows us to experience existence, to feel emotions, to be able to pontificate about it like we are now, to perceive and understand our own surroundings. And then where's all this jammed up? Well, these interconnections. Knowledge is what we know. Intelligence is how we process and use what we know. Consciousness is our awareness and perception of what we know and feel. A machine can contain knowledge. It can display intelligence. It can even kind of dummy up answers, serve up answers that look a lot like consciousness. But consciousness is a subjective experience, and self-awareness for now remains uniquely human. For now. Together, knowledge, intelligence, and consciousness create this tapestry, this interconnected tapestry of our minds. It enables us to learn, to adapt, to create, and experience. But remember, we are just biological software. So before you start thinking that we are super unique, consider this. Consider that consciousness is an emergent property of the biological software we have running on these biological hardware systems. It came from, and again, we're not getting to a religious thing, but it came from nothing, pre-Mesozoic soup. And it turns out, based on many, many experiences and experiments, that if you leave the primordial soup long enough, life is the answer. It's not a one-off. It's not, oh, life is precious and rare and unique. No, it isn't. It turns out that it's the default answer when you put a bunch of molecules together in a goo. It's the likely outcome. So if the likely outcome is this software system on top of this biological hardware, and an emergent quality is consciousness, then if you have an evolving, self-fixing, self-educating, self-coding system of software, narrow AI, as we approach AGI, you could see many, many paths where consciousness emerges there too. So it's an interesting time to be floating around the humanverse, I would say. Anyway, have a good day. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't do anything. As you know, that my poor, insolvent, drunk, strung it on meth grandmother would not do. Be careful. Be safe, especially during the holidays. Drive around with your radio off. Don't have music playing. Came from a party, had some shots, whatever. Don't add to the mess that's going on in your mind. especially when you assume everybody else may or may not be drunk driving and all that. So stop at stoplights, stop at stop signs. Don't mow somebody's kids down. Don't get road rage. Be careful because other people are not careful. Again, don't do all this work, get ahead, and then give it back. That would just suck real bad. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow for we may not see you tomorrow. It may take the day off because, holiday. All right. Deuces.